Hello, everyone. This is the pre-show. Let me know that you can hear me. We're going to be starting in about 10 or so minutes. This is Shar's Craft Haven live stream. We're going to be talking about troubleshooting. This is the first time I've streamed on YouTube, so expect shenanigans, but it should be a good time. Let me know you're here in the comments and if you can hear me, because I assume my mic is still working, but you know, better not to assume. All right. Well, I don't see anybody joining yet, so hopefully notifications will go out and people will see that we're live. And after this, I'll edit it down and it'll be available at your convenience on the YouTube channel, Shar's Craft Haven. So as things get rolling, hope your night is good. Let me shift to live chat. Welcome, everyone. Looks like one person has joined. Hi, Mrs. Shar. Great. I can be heard. Wonderful. Like I said, it's about 10 minutes. I like to start a little early to try and work out the gremlins, you know, like you do. And we'll get started. As you're joining, feel free to put your troubleshooting related questions. We're going to focus mostly on hardware in this live stream, but if you have software bugs after we go through some of the most common hardware, we will get around to that. So I know a couple people joined almost immediately when I accidentally went live. So hopefully they get the notification and come back this time. Again, new software. I've done Facebook live streams, but this is a first. So hopefully people have gotten the invite and we'll get started shortly. Hope winter's treating you well where you are. All right. Excellent. All right. Getting things up and running. Anybody making anything fun? Or lots of unfun holiday gifts? Feel free to share. Are we still waiting on folks? Let me see if I can find how to share. This is new, how to share the live stream directly. I've been sending people to Shar's Craft Haven, practicing gift giving. Excellent. So we will give people another 6 minutes or so, and then we will get started. All right, while we're waiting for people, I think I'm gonna test out camera. See how this goes. Make sure this works. I don't believe that it is. Screen is black. All right. Glad I'm testing this out. Let's go to side cam. Make sure everything is plugged in correctly. There we go. All right. Great. All right. Think that worked. At least it worked on my screen. Excellent. All right. Camera test is good. Can show my messy space with the room camera. Let's see, make sure that works. All right, perfect. Okay, we're still waiting on folks to join up. Let me double check, make sure that my posts have gone live. Inviting folks. Okay. All right, looks to be things are up and running. Excellent. Okay, we still only have one person watching. Hopefully, I didn't mess something up and accidentally make it private. That would that would not be great, but would be understandable, but not ideal. All right. Got about a minute until the bewitching hour, so sit tight and we will get started. All right, I'm gonna send some personal invites. And we will get started. Especially to those that joined when I accidentally went live. Hopefully they get invitations. Inviting all the experts. Help me with the hard questions. All right, let's. Almost ready. Get a good crew joining us. Thanks. If you're already in, thanks for joining. Feel free to put your question in the chat. All right. There we go. We got 5 folks. Hello, hello, hello. Yay! 2 Jennifers. 2 Jennifers and a Camille. Awesome. All right, feel free to put your questions in the comments. I gotta make it clear when editing to start here. Hello, hello, hello. All right, so welcome to Shar's Craft Haven live stream. We're going to be diving into some common troubleshooting, so some error codes. Also, you know, if it's doing this, what could it mean? Again, I'm not an X-Tool technician. You know, all that legal mumbo jumbo about, you know, warranty, yada yada. Get a hold of them if you can. First off, a question they already had given in advance is how do you do alignment? Aligning the light path. Hi, Rebecca. Yeah, I mentioned aligning the light path, and Rebecca pops up. She has a PhD in alignment. Um, first thing to know is when you're out of alignment. So the mirrors in the laser box, they are only held in by magnets, so they do move. So once it's arrived, you want to check and make sure that each of the mirrors is seated. One common thing is when people, yeah, favorite task, not, yeah. One common thing is when people clean, they put the mirrors in the wrong way. You want it so that the shiny side is facing where the light is coming through. Um, so, symptoms of being out of alignment, all of a sudden you lose cutting power. All of a sudden, the right half of your bed no longer cuts, or it cuts poorly. Also, if it's on the very edge, you might get a wide beam, or you might get actually two beams at the same time. So what we're gonna start with is I'm gonna use my trusty cam, and I'm gonna show you where the mirrors are and how to check that they're seated, and we'll go from there. So let me get my trusty side cam, turn on so you guys can see. Alright, so to be able to move this, I'm sorry if it become a little more faint. Yeah, because the mic is on the desk. So here we go. So here is the laser head. With it off, you can move it. So it goes along the trolley. So this is the laser head. There are two pieces that come off, the top and the side. This is the lens. Let me just making sure that you guys can see this. Excellent. So here's the lens. Another common issue is when people do cleaning, they put the lens in upside down. So the lens, you want it to be rounded side up. You also don't want there to be any sort of buildup. You want to make sure that you clean this, especially the bottom side. That's where fumes would come up and make it unclean. So that is the lens, and then the first mirror is up on top. See if you can see down in there. This lens doesn't get terribly dirty. You can't really do much of alignment with it, but you want to make sure that it's in there. You can see the silver side is away from the light path. The side that's more golden, you want to be in line with the light path. Okay, so coming out of there's a hole here. That is where we're going to place the tape when we check our light path alignment. And so that is what you're going to put tape over. You can also faintly draw a circle around the hole just so it's easier to see where your light is going to be going through. And then here is the first mirror. So this is the mirror that I use for aligning. It magnetizes in from the back. Again, it shouldn't be terribly dirty. There should be no spots on it. It's golden side toward the light. So if you put it in backwards, then it obviously will not reflect very well. Inside, which I don't think you'll be able to see very well because of the darkness, there are magnets that are around this. And sometimes if those magnets become loose, they can stick to this. And if they stick to this, then it will throw your alignment out. Because a magnet will stick to another magnet, and instead of this having no magnets on it, it'll have one magnet. Or where it slots, there will be two magnets on top of each other, and it'll throw your alignment out. So this is the mirror that we use to change alignment. I have found ways to get around unscrewing this, which is what the video says. I just use tilting this to fix alignment. The back mirror should not be an issue, but just in case it arrived and maybe it came out, the back mirror is right where the tube comes out. So I think you can see that there. Again, you just want that to be seated. It should not need to be cleaned. So let me pause there and see if there are questions about that before I show alignment in itself. So questions so far: where the mirrors are, which way the lens comes in. I'm not seeing any live chat. Yes, silver circle around the mirror, correct. All right, if there are not questions, waiting just a second. Okay, we're gonna go through the alignment process. So first off, you're gonna need some masking tape. I use painter's tape. You wouldn't want to use any tape that has plastic in it because it'll melt. All right, so got my trusty tape. Like I said before, we're going to be putting it over that hole. And then I'm going to draw with a pencil a light line around that, so we can see where the hole is. Okay, so let me fast show you what that looks like. Tape over that hole, and with it with a faint circle so that we can see what we're looking at. All right, it's gonna get a little loud because I'm gonna be turning on the laser to show you what to do in the software itself. So I apologize if there's a bit of rumbling. I will turn off the fan, so hopefully that'll make it a little less crazy. All right. So now in the software, so a lot of the help they'll tell you to use a launcher. I don't use the launcher. I just do a small line. So pulling up the software now, and let's switch over so you all can see that. I will wait just a second to make sure that has shown up for you all. Excellent. All right, so we're gonna go in and we're gonna connect. I am connected via USB. So it looks like it's been a little shy with the live streaming on. So you just need to draw a 1 millimeter line. So let's, all right, there we go. All right, so the material doesn't really matter. What matters is that we're going to be drawing this line in the middle of the right side. I'm not sure, it's a little small. I think you can see my mouse. That way, when it moves out and down, you'll be able to see that it's made a clear shot. So we're going to go ahead and in the design tab, we're going to draw a line, tiny little line. Again, we want it to be a quick burst, so I'm going to draw a 1 millimeter line. We'll go back to here. Cutting is better than engraving because, again, we want just that single burst. And I would start at high speed, so maybe like 65 millimeters per second, and I'd start pretty low. Again, if you hit it too hard, the tape's going to just burn up and you won't really be able to tell anything. So I'm going to start at 20% power. Gonna send it to the laser. Alright, I'll trust that it's there even though it's so small that the preview might not show it. Sending it and switching over the camera, so hopefully you all can see this. I'll wait a second for it to catch up just to make sure. Alright, and pressing go. Okay, so it did not fire. So I think perhaps my line was too small. Let me make it a little bigger. Okay. And this is why we troubleshoot. Alright, so we'll go for 5 millimeters. I think that'll still be small enough. Alright, and that is where we want it to be, that side. Okay, let me just make sure the settings, yeah, the settings have reset since I opened it. Make sure you change those. So again, we want it pretty fast. So we'll do fast and then low power. Alright, so we'll send this again. And we'll see what it does. If this doesn't work, I will draw the line in Inkscape and then we'll go from there. Okay. So not sure if you all saw that. It's pretty fast. Now we're going to check the tape. So to do that, we need to turn off. Alright, we are pretty good. I did not use enough power. So let's... Yes, my daughter wants to be a star, so she jumped in. Alright, so we're gonna up our power. I start at 20. I'm gonna go up to 30. Again with the same speed. So let's send that again. Alright, same place. Same settings. I'm just upping the power. And again, if you overdo the power, you know, you won't get anything useful. Yes, baby photobomb. Exactly. Alright, so let's go for 30. And then we're going to go for 50 millimeters per second. Alright, so instead of disconnecting and reconnecting, I'm going to open the debug menu, and I'm going to move it over so that we can see it. Alright. Okay, and the debug menu on PC is control function F1, and then I just move the x-axis plus a few times. This is a bit slower because I'm using a camera, but you can see that we are pretty much in the middle. It's a little high and it's a little to the side. But that's close enough. Let me talk you through. Let me talk you through how you would fix it. So for example, um, I'll try and use the camera and talk through it. So ask questions in the chat if it's confusing. It's a mirror, so we'll say this is the mirror here. And the hole, if there's a dot that's low, you would want to tilt it up. So to tilt it upwards, you want to put something in on the top. So since it's a mirror, think opposites. So this is our last mirror. To tilt it upward, we'd put a little bit of paper at 12 o'clock. So that's if it's in the middle, but needs to go up. So if it is down and to the right, if you look at it, then we need to tilt this up and towards the left. So you put a little bit of paper in there at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock. A little sliver of paper goes a long way. A couple slivers and tape can make the difference between being on the edge and being exactly where you want to be. I'll show you what that looks like quickly. Mine is not out of alignment, so I don't want to muck around with it too much. But I'll show you with the mini camera what that looks like. So here we go. So in here, this is the mirror we're going to be wanting. So here it is, it is close enough for me, but we'll say it was off either very low or very high. And here's the mirror that we're going to be propping. So if it's low, you want to prop the top just slightly out. So a little bit goes a long way. A tiny bit of paper up in that top area would tilt it upwards. So the top coming out tilts the mirror upwards. So say it's really high, you would then need to tilt it lower. So again, you could tilt it by putting a tiny bit of paper on the bottom. You'd repeat the steps of that tiny little line with the light power, and then if you're doing it a lot, it helps to have a little mark to tell you whether it's your first mark, your second mark, to see how close you're getting. If it's wildly out of place, you can take a Sharpie and mark 12 o'clock and try rotating the lens a quarter turn. And that rotating the lens a quarter turn, it can, in some cases, move it clockwise. So if it's wildly up here and it's splitting, it's barely on there, first step would be to put the Sharpie at 12 o'clock so that you have a line on the back of your mirror up here, and then rotate a quarter turn to see if this moves. If it doesn't move at all, then you're going to go to the propping. So again, opposites. If it's too high or if it's too low, prop the high. If it's too high, prop the bottom. The way that they do it in the video, you're unscrewing these and you're moving a lot of stuff around. I've not had luck with that. Often a little bit just with this one mirror can go a long way. So let me remove this tape, because my next laser job would be really off if I had tape there. Any questions on that? I'm not seeing anything in the live chat. Any questions on alignment? It's more of a scientific method than a cure-all. So it's incremental changes and then that feedback. So let me just, is this good? Chat is quiet. I'm sure everybody's enthralled. So, questions if you ever do it? Absolutely. Yeah. So it's one of those things. You once you have that situation, you learn. It's a lot harder than I make it look. So, yes, and If it's really way out of alignment, it can take a lot of trial and error, but this is the basics of how it functions. Um, the last person I helped with this, we had it from being way off, like 3 or 4 millimeters off the circle to in the middle within half an hour. So once you get how it works, you can incrementally fix it quickly. Yeah. So it can take a long time if it's super off, but again, knowing what you're doing can save you a lot of time. All right. Any other questions about the light path before we move on to something else? Definitely harder than I'm a pro. Well, again, I've helped 6 or 8 people. So I learned, Rebecca's in the comments. Rebecca and I were in the trenches together, so we did invest a lot of time. But I've learned from that. Now she's got her PhD in alignment, and if it ever happened, she'd be good to go. Any other questions on alignment before we switch to another topic? Or is there a troubleshooting topic that you all have that are watching this? Yes, the older video is confusing. There's a recent one that I just found that does a little bit better. All right, other troubleshooting questions before I move on to another topic. Waiting on chat to catch up. All right, not seeing any other topics. I'm going to go ahead and do some error codes. Okay, so all right, let's see if you all can see this. So, error codes. So, there are a few error codes. Let me turn off my light. Okay, sorry about that. So here's the debug menu. Control function F1 brings it up. There are error codes that talk about the air assist, that talk about the water pump, and so to be able to check those, it helps to be able to access this. So, for example, to check the air pump that it's working, you click air pump on. I think you can hear it. You can also put paper underneath it. So if you get an error code that says, air assist isn't functioning, then you can turn that on and off that way. So air pump off. Okay, the same with the water pump. The water is on the left side of the machine. To get into it, you need a hairdryer. There's videos on that. I'm not going to take apart my machine right now. But if you have abnormal or low water error code, that would be the side to work on it. And then you would turn the water pump on. And then you would see that that's circulating, and then turn the water pump off. So, and I can hear right now that turning the water pump off, it is significantly quieter. So a lot of the sound of the machine is the water pump. So I just turned it back on again. You're not going to use a lot of other things in here. I do some more advanced stuff, like, for example, get version. If you ever need to know what your your firmware version is, that information's up here. So if they're asking you, you'd hit get version and then take a screenshot. It's probably too tiny for you all to see. From here, you can also manually have it do firmware upgrades. You can also trigger a software upgrade where it's looking for software. Those are in Chinese. If you have Google Lens, you can use the Lens translate function to look at those and to click the correct one. If you're having firmware failing over and over again, that's a way to manually do that. Again, up here, this is what I used to move the x-axis out so I could look at the dot. without having to turn the machine off and on again. And this, I believe, is in millimeters. So each time you press this, it moves 25 millimeters, and plus is to your right. All right, so those are sort of the troubleshooting where you might need to go into here. Let me check. So okay, so Inkscape software. All right, software questions. Let me turn off my machine and pull up Inkscape. Hopefully you can hear me a little better. So the most common software issues: importing and having it change size. So I use Inkscape as my pass-through, my preparation and pass-through. So for example, I would design in here. If I bought a design somewhere else, I'd still bring it through Inkscape before bringing it through to Laserbox. So the first thing is scaling issues. Pulling something in, having it scaled weirdly. I have not had a scaling issue in months. Here's what I do with every single SVG. I go up to the file and I go down to document properties. Not sure if you can all see this. It's pretty small. And I have display units in millimeters, and then I make my document the same size as the bed size, so 500 by 300. I also use this to make sure that things will fit, so I do an entire sheet at a time. The scaling, if something comes in pixels, which a lot of files from Etsy do, by changing this to millimeters and changing this to millimeters, often this turns to something that's other than 1. So you want this to be 1. You might have to see what size it is and then scale it down and then manually resize it to where it was. If you don't do this, you're going to have stuff come in super huge. So now that that's set up, here's our screen. A common issue with the software, common bug, is shapes, especially shapes with a slight round to them. So for example, if you ever see in your software it says 7 seconds for something that shouldn't be 7 seconds, it's an issue with it reading the line. So how to fix that is to go in, I'm gonna, this isn't already a path, so I'm gonna do object to path, and then I'm gonna take the node tool. I don't need to do anything other than I'm gonna click this segment. It's selecting both sides, and then I'm going to click up here. There's a plus symbol to add a node. Just by adding that node and saving it, it goes from being invisible to being visible to the Laserbox software. So I found it most with circles or with squares that it has a hard time reading. But again, adding that one node, it's visible again. So software is the most frustrating. Inkscaping. Okay, Inkscape engraving problems. Okay, single line font for scoring. So I just talked to Jennifer, and she shared with me a place where you can get turn things into single line fonts. Let me see if I can find this quickly. All right, so it's all credit goes to Jennifer for this. Jennifer Sutton. Let me make sure you guys can see this. So she shared this with me. I haven't done it yet, but you can put in your text and then your script, and then it can spit out an SVG for you. So thank you, Jennifer Sutton, for sharing this. So this is something that she has used before, and I don't know anything other than that. Hopefully that will help with your issue. I use the font that I use is Gabriola. So testing. And I always, when I'm importing text into Laserbox, I always do it path, object to path. I then ungroup, and then path union. That way, the weirdness that happens with Laserbox, where you bring it in and it does weird things, or it shows up strangely, you can bring it in as an SVG, and then you're able to engrave with it. Let me show that fast, because you have to click. Gabriola, Gabriola. All right, so let's pop back over to Laserbox. Get rid of our extraneous lines. Reconnect. All right, and then import. Let me save this to the desktop. If you have other questions, let's do desktop live stream. If you have other troubleshooting questions, please post them now. So once we get done with that, we can move over. All right, so desktop. And then all right, so here we go. So on flat surface, so this is an SVG. It came in without any issues. We'll just center on there for fun. And then you go to the design tab, and then there's a fill checkbox over there for engraving. Material profiles are incredibly helpful, so you don't have to remember everything. My go-to engraving for Baltic birch is 50% power, 264 millimeters per second. Where do you get that font? I don't think I installed it. I think it's a standard system font. Okay, you found it. Great. It isn't engraving the Y's and the W's. I've not had that happen. My guess is when you converted it to a path, you need to make sure you ungroup, a few times, and then union or combine it. It's easy for letters to get lost in that process. So, but here we have testing. Here we've got our cut line around it. Okay, so Camille's saying, so another bug that Camille's bringing up is there are some fonts that go outside of the text box. Let me see if I can do that in here. We will use Gabriola. I don't usually do text in Laserbox just because it's a little unruly. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, so Y, W, Y, W, Y, W. Okay, so if the text box is smaller than the font itself, what Camille is saying, a workaround with that is to put spaces ahead of and behind it to change it so that the text box get larger than your font. Um, so if you have a font that goes outside the text box, there's lots of fancy ones that do. By adding those spaces in front of and behind it, it will expand the text box so that when you bring it off, it doesn't get clipped. So thank you, Camille, for bringing that up. That is definitely a known error, and thankfully people have found workaround. All right, other questions, troubleshooting questions before we move on from this software. Wait a couple seconds because I know it's delayed. All right. Still cuts at the end of the letter K and F. Cuts the letters off. I am not exactly sure what you're talking about, but feel free to contact me and I can look at the specific file. I've never had the end of letters get cut off before, but I am willing to look into it. Something I have... Okay, yeah, definitely send me a pic. Trust me, I've seen a lot of things, but I haven't seen everything. So something I have in my email is I have a list of all the error codes. And so that's something that's really helpful. A lot of people have a hard time. They get an error code, they panic, they're not sure what it means. You can also search online for codes, and there's now a wiki on the Laserbox page. They're adding new videos from time to time, but here's my cheat sheet. So I'm pulling back the curtain for all those that you think I'm a wizard or some sort of, that I've memorized all these. I have not. So the error code, and then it tells what it means, and then it gives steps. So let me see if I can zoom in on this because it's pretty small. Error code about the filter. Yes. Okay. All right. So that is a good place to start, Camille. Thank you. So first off, if you don't have their purifier plugged in, by default, the software looks for it. So you might get this error, which is QOX52, and it says low voltage purifier is not connected. It is incredibly annoying because you only get this after you've started a job and it's gone for a little bit. It'll pop up, it'll stop your job, it'll give you a big red light circle, it'll give you, a mini heart attack. But really all that means is you haven't plugged theirs in. Let me go back to the software and we'll go to settings, and in the settings you can disable that. So right here I have both tray detection and purifier detection disabled, both of those. So the purifier comes automatically checked. If you didn't buy a purifier, if you're using an inline fan or something else that works better, you want to uncheck this so you don't get that error code. This is irrelevant once you've changed this. Also, since we're in here, if you're having issues with it, with your software freezing, or it sends a file and then nothing happens, try clearing the cache. There are other things, like it might be a bad board, but this is a place to start, especially if you've had the machine for a long time. Clearing the cache can help for that. Again, if it's If it's doing that regularly, it might be a board issue. All right. So let's go back here. Okay. So the most common error codes I would say is that there's an issue with the air pump. So this is your air assist. Like I said, you go into the debug menu, you turn it on, you hear if it's working. Often you'll get an error code if you haven't cleaned. If you haven't cleaned your air assist, you know, the bottom of the bottom gets really super grimy. It can give you this as well. The airflow is not normal. Let me show you where that is on here. So mine's a little dirty, I apologize. But right there at the bottom, there's a little, looks like an upside down funnel. Right under where the lens sits. And there, it can get grimy buildup inside of that little tube. So you want to clean around and also clean inside this little tube so that airflow doesn't get stopped. I have never taken mine apart. I hear it's a huge pain, so I wouldn't do that unless you had to. But again, that sort of cleaning helps prevent needing to take stuff apart more. Okay, so let's keep going. Again, throw questions. I lost sound. Can you hear me now? Can everybody hear me? Let me test. It is showing that I am hearable. Side cam. I'm not sure. Can you hear me? A bit echoey. I don't know. Alright. I'll try and be less echoey. Okay. Okay, so air, water. So this one, so QX030, the water level, often when it first gets delivered, if it's been abused in the system, the water level might be low. To check that, you need to take off the left side. There's videos on that. If it's halfway or above, I would just add purified water. If it's under that, you'll have to look into mixing antifreeze into it. Okay. The voltage purifier, that was the one Camille talked about. Okay, so controlling board is offline. These are pretty rare. These typically, so OX60 and 61, those are typically, it's on the right side underneath where the LED starting circle is. There are wires there. They can come loose. Some people have had them come with some damage to them, but that is where you would check to see if that is going on. All right. So 143 limit position. This happens actually for, I would say, 2 or 3 different reasons. So it's a little challenging. One is that your limit switch, your X limit switch, has some buildup, and I'll try. It's going to be hard to show you, but I'll try and show you where that is. So that's it's a buildup. It's a physical switch. So metal contacts metal to show that it is in the correct position. And there's 2 places where that can have buildup. One is in the upper left, the home position, and the other is if something gets wedged behind the laser head. There's a little piece of metal that slides into the limit switch. So if you don't clean your machine like ever, I try not to judge, but I've seen some really dirty machines which can cause errors like this. So I'll try and show that really fast. Um, it's a little hard to see, so we will do our best. Alright, so here is the limit switch. I have an older, there's not models, but this is a little older, so mine is a slant. Some of them look slightly different, where it's got a little prong sticking up. And then what contacts this, which I doubt you're going to be able to see, but back behind here, there's a little hook. It's like a, I don't know, like a little door shape. So it's the top frame of a door. It slides down. It depresses this. It connects that. If you have this really dirty, especially the older one, where it's like an up and down piece. Alright, my light went out. So, limit switch there, behind there, check both of those. That's 142. If QX143. Another reason it might come up is if your Y board is going bad. You might get that error a bunch. And again, tech support can walk you through that. The third reason is the Z-axis. So inside the laser head, there's a screw where the laser goes up and down to focus different materials. If that's clogged up, if the red light in there is off, then your Z-axis needs to be cleaned, needs to be worked on. All right, I think those are all the normal errors. I don't want to go too far because we're almost at an hour. I guess I would ask, are there other pressing questions? Do you have thoughts about this format of a live stream? Let me know. I really want to do more videos. It's a little challenge to editing on that to get them out to you quickly. Live streams are a bit easier to do. So let me know if this is something that's helpful. I've been trying to do these once a month. And so, yeah, let me know in the comments. As always, like, subscribe. I have Patreon. I'm not very great with it. But I'm trying to do my best to get you guys information. Also, in the description of this, there's a link to a survey I'm doing to try and give information to Xtool about current users, what they want in the next Laserbox machine. So that's going to be open for a little less than a week. I'm going to take that data and I'm going to try and have your voices be heard. What matters the most to you about the next machine? That's features, software, light burn, price range that you feel is reasonable. If you get all the features you like in an ideal situation, what an upgrade price might be, or what a price may be if you don't own it and you want to buy a new one. So yes, really, 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 really want better software. Absolutely. The last official word on that is that they're going to start doing beta testing of XES, which is the software that the D1 and the M1 are currently on. They're going to start beta testing the end of this month, is the last word that I've heard on that. XES is better in a lot of ways. It also has some missing features that I'll miss, like profiles. Yeah. So, yeah. Material profile, sorry. Any other questions before I bid you all adieu? Thank you again for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing your expertise um, as we all learn this together. Feel free to drop me a message or write a comment if you have an idea for our next live stream, which would be next year. And as always, thanks for watching and have fun lasering.